Hello and welcome to another episode of Future Ready Voices, where we talk with CEOs, managing directors, senior leaders about the future of work and how they are impacting the future of work today. And today with me, I have Alex Assaley, who is the managing director of Hub International. Just to give you a history of Alex, he is, again, managing director of Hub International Retirement Plans here at Hub International, based out of Bethesda, Maryland. And he helps employers build and govern retirement plans. Since joining the retirement plan consulting practice in 2006, he specializes in plan design, fiduciary oversight, and participant education that supports financial wellness for employers and employees. He's a recognized leader. He serves as the president of We went off screen. There we go. Sorry about that. All right. So we had a little glitch there, but going back to what we were saying. So, with the education you provided, you came in and you talked to the senior leaders that a lot of people in your roles do. They focus on senior leadership, they make the most money, but you focused on everyone and you did financial one-on-ones for people. What is your mission and what is the purpose of what you do and why do you do it?
Sure. Since, as you mentioned, I started in 2006, since the beginning, our team has really been focused around helping people improve their financial know-how. And I think that the backdrop of that was a combination of life experiences that I had growing up, and then in the early phase of my career, working alongside my colleague, Alex Assaley, who started our firm initially, with this sort of tenet around, helping people enhance their financial know-how, individuals, families, households who might not really ever have access to a financial planner or a financial advisor. And inside the workplace is one of the most native ways to do that. So that's really, we built values and a culture at our firm around that concept of we're going to deliver independent, objective guidance and advice to help people make the best decisions when it comes to their financial lives. And you got to see that firsthand when we worked together, by way of not only creating a really high quality retirement program, but then taking that and creating a customized employee engagement and education program so that employees from all aspects of the organization, the senior executive to the newest, maybe individuals starting their career, had access to confidential, meaningful one-on-one coaching and advice when it came to their financial picture.
And that's so valuable because, people, there's stats out there that say right now that the Gen Z and millennials are more comfortable talking about their mental health than their finances. And that's something that, look, we all know that if we knew what we know today, if we knew what we knew then, what we know today, we would be in a much better place. Going back to what you're saying about those meetings that Alex and his team would do, they would set up financial one-on-ones with us at least twice a year. And what was so valuable is you go in there and you're so vulnerable. You're exposing all your expenses, all your bad management of your debts. And when you put it out there, you're afraid of getting judged. They not only do they show you what you're doing well. They show you where you're going in the right direction and here's the things that you can do differently. I learned so much that today I'm in such a better financial place because of those small tips. And they weren't anything that you need to have a lot of money to. It was just a mindset and practice. So I have some questions that I had a bunch of HR colleagues sent to me because they were very curious about your thought about the future of work and with so many things changing in the world. And so the first question was, when you look at today's workforce, there's so much going on with remote, hybrid, gig types of work. How has the definition of financial wellness changed from even just 10 years ago?
Sure. Well, I'll start with hybrid working environment, remote work environment, where, across companies, organizations, team members are maybe spending more of their time working remotely, but still perhaps coming in the office some days. That big shift really occurred in, the last 5 or 6 years, some of it, predicated on the pandemic environment. I think that's been actually a big win for benefits overall, employee engagement, and financial wellness in particular. 10, 15 years ago in our industry, in the retirement plan services industry, financial wellness was this vague concept with a wide kind of broad range of definitions based upon who you asked. It could be something as, kind of simplistic as, oh, we offer financial wellness because our employees have access to a website where they go through a questionnaire. And that questionnaire asks them about their financial life and then shows them some videos, to as sort of comprehensive as what we had delivered, which was having access to meet with somebody one-on-one. But even in that sort of spectrum, there were varying degrees of what that looked like in the retirement services industry. And there, frankly, there's still somewhat of a broad definition. But I think today, as the industry has evolved, as the work world has evolved, financial wellness has become much more around helping people understand the complete spectrum of their compensation and benefits package and how these different components of it work together, right? Again, historically, somebody might think, okay, this is my base compensation or my cash compensation. Now I've got to make decisions around my health benefits. Now I've got to make decisions around my 401k or 403b. And those decisions were sometimes kind of presented from either the employer or their outside, service providers as these siloed decisions. But realistically in our lives, these things are intertwined. And so I think more and more today, financial wellness or, financial advice in the workplace is about helping an individual really understand where they are today when it comes to their overall financial picture, how the benefits package that's being offered by an employer can help them optimize the next decisions and take care of what's most important for them while also planning for the long term. I'll give you a real life example, right? Is that if you are, a family of 3, 4, 5 in your household, your healthcare benefits probably take a bit of precedent over your retirement savings that might be, a goal that's 20 or 30 years down the road. And that's okay. Like, I think we want to be genuine around how do you make the best decisions to protect yourself today, to put yourself in a good position today with your health and your finances, but also planning for what, inevitably is going to come quicker than we all expect, which is the day you want to slow down or stop working altogether.
I love that answer. And one of the things that I love about the mindset you have is you tied into overall wellness. One of the things that inspired me to really focus on financial wellness in the workplace was Alex and his team. When we were talking about mental and physical wellness, which we talk about all the time in the workplace, financial wellness wasn't always part of that discussion. Alex and his team, when they came in and they started sharing that, they partnered with us. They didn't just say, you need to do this. Like, how can we partner with your mental and physical wellness program? And what we did was we had some requirements because people got financial incentives to participate. One of the requirements, or a few of the requirements was you had to get your annual physical, you had to get your blood drawn, but one of them was you had to meet with your financial advisor at least once that year. That initiative help people get over that fear. Think about the fear of going to the doctor. Oh, I don't want to find out what's wrong with me. But once you go for your annual physical over and over again, you kind of get over that fear and it becomes natural. Same with your financial wellness. Once you get over that fear of, oh, I don't know if I want to go into that. I don't understand finances. No, the more you learn, the more you're going to be safer financially in the future. And I applaud you all for doing such a great job with that, because you inspire people that were naysayers, and you got people to be ambassadors for you as well. All right, I'm going to skip to a different question here, because I think this one here is a very relevant question that someone submitted about AI, and it talks about AI personalization, wealth building. We see a lot of AI-powered building tools out there, budgeting tools, robot advisors becoming mainstream. How does AI changing access to financial advice, and where does human guidance still matter most with all this AI in the world?
Sure. And I saw John kind of had a very similar question here while we're talking. Personally, and well, both from a personal perspective and from a team corporate perspective at Hub, we're big proponents of leveraging AI today in a way that helps us reach more people, helps us become more efficient, and hopefully enhance the ability for people to improve their financial picture. There's no question that certain aspects of the work that we do can be completely delivered via artificial intelligence. So an easy example is investment allocation, right? And this has been this way for years. I mean, I kind of have said this for quite a while now, that, you know, when you work with a financial advisor, if you are going out, you know, kind of on your own and engaging your own financial advisor or financial planner, or if it's inside the workplace through a retirement plan, helping to pick your investment allocation, how your 401k or your IRA or your brokerage account's allocated, is really the lowest barrier to entry. Software has been able to do that, you know, at a snap of a finger for 15 years, if not 20 years, right? And AI can do it. I mean, you can get really good results out of a pretty simple prompt into any one of these software tools around helping you build your investment mix, right? So I think where this technology, where the advancements of compute will help us, is not only making it simple for people to have the right investment allocation, but also creating ongoing accountability, right? As we start to think about how individuals are engaging with AI tools and software to keep them, you know, to ask questions, ask prompts, keeping them accountable on certain financial decisions and priorities, helping them keep track of those things, whether it's, you know, managing cash flow, budgeting, if you will, on a monthly basis, achieving goals, checking in on the status of goals, you know, whereas in the past, it might have been, okay, you sit down with a version of me or our team, and we say, okay, for you, the number one priority is we want you to start building up some emergency savings. We'd like to get somewhere between 3 to 6 months worth of your living expenses in a safe vehicle, you know, liquid, high yield savings account. And we want to start working on paying down and paying off some liabilities, some debt, maybe credit card or student loan debt. And those are two goals we can work on concurrently. Then you go off on your way, right? And maybe we say, let's check back in 6 months. Let's check back in 3 months. We can set some dates on the calendar, or it might be on you to kind of reach back out. With AI, it can, you know, you can kind of have a prompt. Hey, every week, remind me where I am on this, or every month. And we don't want it to be overly,
no, exactly,
you know, I guess oppressive and like keep you on track, but
keep you informed.
Every month, check in on where am I with respect to my cash flow or my budget. I do think, to John's question, you know, it shifts the lens of the work that we do around the human engagement and human empathy. I did a short video on this maybe a week or so ago. I'm not sure actually if we've sent that one out. We just did the video. Maybe it's coming soon.
Coming soon to LinkedIn near
but I talk about like how powerful these tools are, but they are really thinking and decision tools, not necessarily advice tools across the board, right? There's risk of hallucinations. There's risk of assumptions. I mean, on the whole, I think again, very, very big proponent and active user of this technology. And I think it's only going to improve in terms of its ability to help us. But there's still value in sitting down with somebody who can be empathetic in your personal situation. And some of these decisions when it comes to personal finance do I put, if I had an extra $1,000 at the end of a month, do I put it into emergency savings or do I use it to pay down my credit card? There's the financial decision, right? What would be the most prudent thing to do financially? And if you're purely thinking from an analytical or financial mind, it's this route, right? Whatever that is. But there's also like the behavioral component, because in real life we have these behavioral drivers, these emotional drivers that impact our day, our week, our month, and we have to be cognizant of how those emotional components can lead us to certain longer term behaviors down the road. So it's always this balance of what's the best decision financially and what behaviorally allows us to continue to make good decisions.
That's such a wise point you're making there, because there's AI is very agreeable. If you say, I'm looking to invest in this, it's more likely to say, well, I think this would be the best choice, and I think it's a good idea. The compassion, the behaviors, your savings or your debt. Well, what if you're planning for a wedding for your daughter? I am in October. That's going to impact where I put that money. But going back to how much time would you say you all focused on the investments and looking at them and where they are and should you change any of them? How much time on an average day or week or month would you spend?
Well, it depends, right? I mean, we have experts on our team that they do that every day, right? That's their role and responsibilities, and they become experts. They're talking to money managers, asset managers. They're watching the markets. When it comes to personal finance, when it comes to the work that we do inside of an organization with respect to financial coaching and advice, the beauty is for longer term investments, once we can build an investment allocation that aligns with your age, time horizon, and personal preference for risk, then it's really just maintaining that allocation, until something changes. And so, once you get that set up, whether it's in a 401k or an IRA, I would argue that you don't really need to make any changes. And if you review it once a year, excellent, twice a year at most. But then as longer time periods and market cycles progress, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, we're getting closer to that target date, whether it's a goal you have for that money or retirement, then we need to revisit and review it. But to your point, I think what you're actually alluding to is that, when it comes to overall financial security and financial success, that might be, this little piece of a big sort of body of work that somebody needs to do to get on track.
And with your point about AI, AI is helping a lot of the mundane work sometimes be sped up a little bit, have you take time that you have focus on data and information that maybe AI can help you so you can focus more on the individuals, focus more on the conversations. I'll say, as much as agreeable as AI was, my first meeting with AFS, when I sat down with them and I put out all my dirty laundry, and I was nervous. I walked out of there not only learning new skills, the phrase that they said, you right now are on track for what you're doing to continue living the lifestyle that you live today when you retire, if you continue saving the way you are. That blew my mind. I didn't think I was anywhere near that. But you also said, but you still need to take these steps. You need more in your emergency savings. You need to think about this. And so those are the things that I've adopted, and it has made a huge difference. I started off $10 a paycheck into savings. Then it went to $50. Then it grew to $100. Start off somewhere, because that habit, that mindset will continue, like you said, into the future until something else changes. All right, let's talk about retirements being redefined.
Sure. Yeah.
We have in this world, we have so many people. I mean, AI's opened up doors. We have gig workers. We have people who are doing contract work. We have entrepreneurs. And retirement no longer means stopping at 65.
Mm-hmm.
What does retirement realistically look like for the future of work? And with people that have portfolio careers, meaning they have different streams of revenue coming in, how can they save for retirement if they aren't working for an employer that offers, say, a 401k?
Sure. Yeah. This is a really interesting topic. I truly believe that what are you, Gen X? Is that?
I'm Gen X, yes.
So I think like Gen X and younger, I think I'm like the youngest Gen X,
okay.
The oldest millennial. I think Gen X and younger, these generations are absolutely going to have a different path in terms of working careers and retirement for a number of different reasons. Some of it is just the change in sort of the working world, the change of culture, how we think about retirement and lifestyle. So, still today, that traditional trajectory of go into the working world, work a career, planning to retire at 65 or 67. I mean, that's still kind of, the functional trajectory that we have today, but it's starting to get these little waves or disruptions, if you will, in a good way, right? But I do think more and more, and when I talk to people, and it's from even the baby boomer generation down, but I think that those in our generation and younger start to think about this of like, yeah, I'd like to be in a position at 52, 55, 57, where I'm not going to stop working, but I'm going to redefine what my career looks like. I'm going to go into passion projects I intend to earn income doing, but I want to have flexibility, right? And so that's absolutely happening. And what that means ultimately is a couple of things. I think it's understanding the tools that you'll have to have and that you'll have to invest in and fund throughout your working career to be able to get there. Because, today the standard retirement vehicles like 401k accounts and IRAs, generally you can't touch those accounts until 59 and a half without penalty. Now there's some exceptions. We don't need to get into like the minutia of the exceptions there, but generally speaking, that's money that you're going to utilize at 59 and a half and beyond. And there's a whole host of, guidance or advice on social media of whether the 401k is a scam or these things. And sometimes you see these posts and the entire point of it is this is money you can't touch for a long time. But inevitably, the vast majority of us are going to get to that day where we need that money.
Or someone in our family will get that money
right.
if we don't go.
So I think about it in this concept of living your life across these different buckets. Right. And it's very easy for the financial professionals, for the financial services industry or others to make your financial life very complex very quickly. I try to, in everything I do, whether it's talking about financial planning or anything else, I try to really think about things simplistically, because if it's simple, then we can execute on it and we can stick to it. And so when it comes to finances, I think about this across living your life in these different buckets, right? And specifically 4 buckets. So the vast majority of us live our lives in 2 of the 4 buckets, by the way. So bucket number 1 is what, kind of your everyday spending. So this is where the majority of your paycheck goes into your checking account, and you use it for housing, for, food and groceries, for personal care, hopefully for a little bit of fun, right? That's where the majority of our life is, bucket number 1. Now, most of us also have bucket number 4 if you're in a traditional workplace, right? So that's your long-term retirement savings, your 401k plan or your pension plan. I'm going to get to your question around like, well, what if you're working, kind of consulting jobs, contractor jobs, gig jobs, in just a second. But so most of us have that, right? But that doesn't provide for the financial security or success of, okay, you've worked for 20 years, you're 48 years old, and you have this big financial goal. Maybe it's your daughter's wedding. Maybe it's you want to, go out and start your own business on the side, or you want to take a sabbatical, whatever it might be. If you've got most of your money you're spending on, your cash flow needs today, your lifestyle today, and the rest of it's in retirement assets, now you're in a difficult position, right? So the crux of, I think, financial security and success happens in these other buckets. And what I would encourage, whether you're 23, 53, anywhere in between, is, and what I believe is that realistically, we should be putting money in all four of these buckets from the day we start earning income up until retirement. And what will change is just the sort of the priority or the allocation of extra dollars into those buckets. So very quickly, bucket 2 is going to be, that's kind of your short-term savings. So that's going to be emergency savings.
Okay.
That'll also be money you're setting aside if you have a financial goal or priority in the next, let's say, 0 to 4 years, right? So if you're planning to help fund, something like your daughter's wedding, I would say you wouldn't want to have that money in your retirement account, right? You wouldn't want to have that money even in investments, because the risk of that money fluctuating, and coincidentally, right now as the market's open, it looks like it's going to be a pretty down day in the market. And so if you had that money set aside and then now you need it, but it's lost less. 3%, 5%, maybe 15% of its value, it puts you in a difficult position. Bucket number 3 is more longer term investments, right? So this is money that you have the time horizon that you could invest it in vehicles like the financial markets to grow and appreciate more than it would sitting in, a safe cash equivalent account. But it has the liquidity features that if you set this money aside and you need it in 10 years, because to fund an entrepreneurial effort, you can plan to have that money, right? So I think about those levers as being really important. And that's part of what we talk about when it comes to like financial coaching and advice. It sounds almost counterintuitive that, your 401k advisor isn't telling you put every extra dollar into your retirement savings. It's this really pragmatic thought around how do you set yourself up so you are saving for the long term, but you're and then the last thing I'll touch on is that you mentioned. So, the reason that 401ks, 403b accounts are so valuable is not that they're magic. It's that when an individual has a retirement program in the workplace, they're 5 times more likely to save for retirement. So that creates this challenge for...
And you have the match too.
Yeah, there are things, they're employer matching contributions, I would say that the real benefits of the 401k are just that it's easy to do, right? It happens inside the workplace, number 1. Number 2, the benefit of the 401k or these types of vehicles is that the recurring contributions that become automatic allow you to invest across the ups and downs of the market, right? We don't have to make that emotional decision of, oh man, the market's really not doing well. Do I want to put this money into stocks? Which is actually the time you'd want to do it. But inherently, again, that emotional piece makes it really hard to do. And then there are things like employer match. So if you're, going out on your own, or maybe you're working as a contractor, a consultant, you've got, gig, careers, you might not have access to a workplace plan. Now, our industry, the retirement services industry, we have an association called the American Retirement Association, and that's worked really closely with the federal government on ways to expand coverage. So generally speaking, I would say full-time workers across America are by and large doing a good job saving retirement on the whole. Where there's a gap is individuals who are long-term part-time employees or who are not in a place that they're covered by an employer-sponsored plan. But there are individual accounts you can go out, and start up. So an individual retirement account, an IRA, a Roth IRA. You can set up one of these accounts to save for retirement really at any bank, credit union, investment, brokerage firm, financial institution. And today, with just the evolution of technology, you can go online, set that up in 5 minutes, and set up automated contributions that happen every week, every 2 weeks, every month. No different than you can basically emulate or replicate the employer plan, but we've got to get over that hump of going out and doing it. Whereas in the workplace, when you and I worked together previously and across most of our client relationships, they're making it automatic where they're saying,
Yep.
hey, you're going to start saving in your 401k unless you tell us you don't want to.
Which made a huge difference. The automatic enrolls, it sounds a little bit like you're forcing it, but they can waive, they can get out of it. But it's one of those, you said it and forget it. And then when you look at it 2 years later, you're like, oh, I'm so glad I did that, Going back to some of the things you mentioned, obviously, I love that you mentioned the Roth IRAs, the IRAs, all those people out there, entrepreneurs. If you're not saving, start saving now, even a little bit, because that is going to put a sense of relief and reduce your stress. The other thing you mentioned also was with retirement and people saving for the future. You mentioned the 4 buckets, and that was so profound because, right, the first and fourth bucket, everyone knows. You all taught me about the second and third bucket early on. I started doing the emergency savings, and that was great for when the dishwasher broke, the refrigerator, the water heater blew up. And then I had investments in bucket 3. However, and tell me, I'm curious if this is a bad mindset, I didn't have enough saved up in the emergency savings for my daughter's wedding, but I always said the investments I wanted to take and sell some of these shares for the wedding, and that was the intent, and that's how I was able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the benefit of
it's the risk though of
the
it.
The benefit of bucket 2 and bucket 3 is that you have access to this money, right? The reason we separate those two is, and some of that's just managing your own risk profile or risk tolerance, is that if you're going to need to use the money in a short period of time, I generally say 0 to 3, 0 to 4 years, then you want it to be in a vehicle where it's not going to fluctuate over, so that's where it's in bucket 2. But let's say, for example, my son is in grade school, right? So he's got a while to go before he's getting married, but we're saving up for, college savings. Right. And it's 10 or 11 years away. Maybe less. He's did really well on his spelling test this morning.
All right.
But, so we're saving for college savings. We're saving for college rather. And so you can invest those assets in a 529 college savings account, for an example. But as he gets closer to, when he's 17 and applying to schools, or 18 and getting ready to go off to college, hopefully, you don't want to we wouldn't invest that money as aggressively because now the time horizon is.
You want to take it out, maybe.
So so as you think about like preparing for your daughter's wedding, when it was a few years away, you could have that money invested. As the time horizon gets closer, you've got to make that decision of when does it make sense to like sell this investment.
So that's what I did though.
Yeah.
So I watched it, and we had, and the wedding's until October. I want to say it was December. It was the highest it had ever been.
All right,
and I'm like, let's take it out now, and that's what we did. And so. All right, well, that's wonderful advice. Thank you for that. All right, you talked about employer match. You talked about employers. Let's talk about employers and how they can, what does it look like now for them? CEOs listening out there, what should they know about financial wellness as a business strategy? And what's the connection between financial stress and engagement, productivity, or retention?
Yeah, really great question. And one that, frankly, can be difficult to answer with data broadly. But and this sometimes creates this, I think, difference of opinions between the finance teams, CFOs, and the HR teams and HR executives. Because sometimes it's hard to measure employee productivity and absenteeism and how that is aligned or directly aligned with financial stress. It's there. We have some clients that we've been able to get into the data and measure it in ways that in an aggregated fashion. So it's not it's not disclosing sensitive PII or anything like that. But there's no question that there's a link between individuals who experience financial challenges, financial stress, and their productivity inside the workplace. And ultimately, we think that creating an environment to help employees not only excel professionally, but excel in their personal lives, whether that's financially, whether that's from a mental health or physical health perspective, is good business, right? On the healthcare side, employee benefits on the health side, which I'm by no means an expert at, and I'm maybe just barely knowledgeable around, but they've been way ahead of this, right? For years, there's been a focus on health wellness, mental health wellness inside the workplace. And financial wellness has been around for quite a while too, but really probably only in the last 10 years have you seen it catch up in terms of the resources and programs that are available. We've worked with a number of organizations and companies throughout both the Washington, D.C. area and throughout the country, where we implement these programs and we measure an employee's true financial security by way of increasing emergency savings, paying down high interest debt like credit cards or student loans, getting on track for retirement. And then we measure that against both direct employee surveys, satisfaction scores, benefit usage, and all those things to be able to provide. But again, generally that's going back to kind of the softer side of HR, but they can use that as I think really positive data. And we think there is a direct link of that and then success of the organization and business. It's a little bit harder to get some of that true data. But I would say for companies and organizations that are thinking about this topic around whether you call it financial wellness or just overall compensation, benefits, total rewards, the sort of sales story that I would give is this is your biggest, outside of cash compensation, your biggest corporate spend are benefits, right? And I have a colleague, another retirement plan advisor, who kind of coined the phrase, and he's like, most companies are actually, they're benefits centers that are running a business, right? Because it's such a massive part of capital spend. And so our message is, don't you want to be in a position where you're getting value out of that spend for your healthcare benefits, your voluntary, your retirement benefits? How can we create a program and deliver services, deliver coaching and advice around your workforce so that you're getting value out of that benefit, you're helping employees improve their financial picture and enhancing the employee experience that we think is, if you do that as a baseline, it's going to enhance your revenue, it's going to enhance your sales, your earnings, and so on.
And I can tell you from firsthand experience, that model he just shared with you works. And it works because of him and his team and how they engage and partner with you. I mentioned earlier we had a wellness program. When they partnered, they came in, they attended our staff meetings, they engaged in our wellness weeks. They built relationships, not just with the executives, with every individual person. When they came in the building, everyone knew who they were. And so for me, one of the most important things for people to realize is that HR people, I'm talking to you all right now, when you're trying to figure out how to convince your CFO and your CEO that this is a financially good decision, let me tell you what I did, and it worked. We can't control claims, obviously, but you can do things to mitigate them. Having that wellness program for physical, mental, and financial help lower our claims, help people purchase homes, help people retire early. We had people lose over 100 pounds, 3 employees did. We had 2 people no longer became diabetic. 1 person stopped using their high blood pressure medication, and 7 people avoided surgeries, plus 5 people quit smoking, me being one of them. All that, year over year, our claims were going down. People were going to the doctor earlier. They're catching things. Same with the financial things. They were saving earlier. They're planning for things. All these things helped reduce sick days, improve productivity, and not only did our claims go down every year, our increases to our premiums went down year over year. Now, can you control someone having a catastrophe and having a high medical claim? No. But if you don't do anything, those high claims are going to increase the premiums for you.
And I'll just add to when the scenario you're talking about, we worked together and you were at a financial institution that had multiple locations, right? Yep. Multiple branches. And so really the key here is if, within an organization, within a company, work with your service providers, your retirement plan advisors, your benefits consultants, your vendors, to have them build a program that aligns with the structure of your organization, right? We have client relationships that have 60 locations across the country. We have others that their entire workforce is remote, right? And so we have a very different program of how we deploy and deliver communications, how we deploy and deliver our financial coaching program with a financial institution with 5 or 6 branches compared to 800 people that are all spread out remote 100% of the time, right? So it's really about aligning your strategy with the sort of structure, the mission, vision, value, the communication and performance strategy that you're already deploying that works for your organization.
And that's the great thing about Hub International and Alex and his team. Again, I mentioned Jim and Casey and Allison, who really, they help customize it for you all and help you be a better employer to your employees. And it's not you as executives, you're also employees. So it's benefiting you as well. Alex, thank you so much for today. I really appreciate all the time.
Thank you for having me.
You've shared so much wonderful information here today. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. Just search my name, Alex Assaley, and connect with me there, and look forward to seeing everybody.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today for the second episode of Future Ready Voices. The next episode will be next quarter, and we look forward to seeing you then. Have a great day, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Bye.